discuss. Okay, so hello everyone again. Good to see you. Let's start with the default content, because that's something that definitely should start to get proceeding, because this is also something that the API first initiative people are looking for. We also need this for making sure that our designs are accurate. We need to have some plan that is approved on the default content issue. So I commented on the content on the proposed content model because I found a few issues on that when I was looking at that last weekend, and basically we need to make a few changes for the proposal, I assume, but I don't think any of those should be deal breakers. So just quickly, yeah.
Are you referring to duration and this kind of changes?
Did you see the last comment yesterday?
No, I did not. Sorry, I should keep up.
Okay, so what I commented there was that currently on the proposal we have ingredients, which is a reference to ingredients taxonomy, which definitely makes sense from the perspective of how the data should be structured. But the problem is that we don't have proper tooling in core for doing that, because of we would, besides of referring to the taxonomy, we should configure like what is the amount of that ingredient needed, and we don't have that type of configuration option in core. So we basically probably will have to just make it a multiple string field, I assume. It was one of the original ideas of like using taxonomies for this, but so I don't know. This is probably one of the most major points on this one.
At least for me, a string seems more natural anyway, because for ingredients you sometimes have an amount, sometimes you just have like a couple bits of salt, or you have actual gram. I think there are so many possible options, like conceptually, that a string is totally fine.
Okay.
I mean, I liked the idea of having a structured content around this, having something that you can pull all of the recipes that contain broccoli and things like that. But yeah, I mean, if everything needs to be within core realm, that kind of limits the options, and that seems to be a good compromise.
Yeah. So I'm going to update the proposal so that it's a string, and thanks for the encouraging words about that, because I was very hesitant if that's a deal breaker for a lot of people. So it's good that at least some people think it's fine. So the next point, it should be a little bit more simpler. It's just about leaving the nutrition out of the MVP. So the reason why nutrition was included was because of this. So the content model that we have proposed for the recipe is following the schema.org recipe schema, and it includes nutrition. But maybe we could just remove that so we don't have to think about that at all. I'm mainly concerned about this if we are able to produce the data for these fields. I don't hear any objections, at least.
Yeah, I agree on removing it. It has a lot of sense for me, at least.
Yeah, agreed.
And no one so API first people, do you need it for something, or is it fine that we remove it?
We are going to generate a schema out of whatever content model we make, so it's not a deal breaker for us either.
Okay, cool. I was wondering if there is some features that you would need in particular from some of the fields, but that is not something that you need, I assume. So the next step is magazine recipe or user submitted. That field, I don't even remember why it's there or why I or someone else has added it there. Does anyone remember what is that for?
I can't remember if I added it. That was from an early conversation we had about the idea that recipes, if we were going to demo the idea that users could register with the site, and we were going to show off a separate role for general membership and submission of recipes by that membership.
But isn't that same as the author?
Don't know. I don't remember adding that field, if I'm honest, but it might well have been me.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll take the blame.
Yeah, for me it sounds like it's same as author.
Yeah.
I think so. So I'm going to remove it from there because we don't remember what it is.
Yeah, maybe an early wireframe also did split them out, so it was possible to see that it was a user submitted rather than being like a magazine type recipe. It's definitely picking up on the conversations from the last X weeks. That's definitely complication that we probably don't need.
Yeah,
flattening things down and all that.
And then the next one is just that do we need multiple images on the recipes? There is an array of images. We can leave it as so then we would have to support it on the UI if it's allowed to add multiple images. It would be odd if we just show one. Any thoughts if we should have multiple images or single image?
I would like.
Oh yeah, Matteo, go.
I was about to say that I would like to be able to show single value relationships and multiple value relationships, and that seems that it was the only one that was multiple value if we remove tags. So, but not a super big deal, because we probably will add something on top of all this to kind of cover all the corners that we want to show off.
But we have the tags at least multi-value.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so we have at least one other one, which is multi-value reference. Yeah. So,
I agree that having images single could simplify things, but from my experience, any recipe website has multiple images. For example, to show like different stages of the preparation. So from a user point of view, it seems to make sense to have multiple images, but I'm not sure how much we care about these things.
I guess that the most important thing for proposing to remove it is to remove weight from the amount of images we are going to have. I mean, if we have 10 images or I don't know, 5 image for each recipe, we'll end up with a lot of images. We will have a huge installed profile.
However, we will be providing the default content, right? So we are in control of how many images we add. So we could keep, that under control.
yeah, and it could be more of a demo feature. Yeah, so I think another interesting point of view would be Keith. Like, do you see that there is a UI? Does it make the UI simpler if we only have single image? Because of the we currently only has one image.
Sorry, Larry, didn't mean to speak over there. Definitely. That's the direction certainly the recipe is going in at the moment. We're following that wireframe, which is just one image at the moment. A lot of the recipe sites out there do just have one image. In fact, the method text, which is effectively the body field, perhaps, depending on how you want to structure the content type. That's kind of a numbered list, really, which might affect how you build that field, and therefore affect how the embedding works. So obviously I'll defer to what you want to do there, but it certainly makes it a lot easier. And granted, from a design perspective, it would be richer with it, but yeah, if we're showing off Drupal core functionality, I don't know. I think that one's a bit up in the air. Yeah, so from a UI perspective, it's simpler.
And multiple images at the point where we have them now, as in the illustration of the recipe, it's maybe not so useful. It would be for the step-by-step illustrations, and I don't think we're planning to do that, right? Because the steps are inside a single body field.
Yeah, effectively a numbered list at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it would add a bit more complexity to the content type recipe, and we'd need for 10 recipes we'd need not 10 images but maybe 50, and that's also a lot of extra work and harder to maintain and the quality we're aiming for.
Okay.
So I would propose to leave it out for now and have single images for recipes.
We actually have two image fields, the lead image and the images field
Yeah.
on the list right now. So I don't know what to...
Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So we should probably just remove the other one.
Yeah, I agree.
And leave one image field. And we also have...
Wait, then the lead goes away and the images becomes single value. There are two changes there.
Yeah.
Okay, I understood that there was only one change.
And we probably also at the same time we have lead content field set and we have lead summary. So I would say that we could use one field for that. So we have two body fields or two long text fields. We have one for the lead content / summary, and we have the recipe instructions long text. So currently we don't have any lead summary or lead content on the card views. So this would be only shown on top of the recipe page on the design. Does that sound safe?
Yeah, that's the right description, Larry, because it's picking up from the original idea that we would have a sort of promotion of content into a view or something in that top region on the article on the recipes listing page. However, I think it was Roy that pointed out that we could possibly do those with a block instead if it was wanted to be done, if you wanted to do it that way, mainly because of also the image ratio. That was the purpose of having a difference between the image on the recipe and a lead image. With a lead image, we could obviously say, well, look, lead images when they're promoted like that might get treated differently. It was all a bit up in the air. So if we're simplifying it, then I guess a block for those promoted articles is going to make, promoted recipes is going to make life a bit simpler.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. That makes sense now why it's been there in the first place. Yeah, so given that explanation, I think it makes sense to remove these fields besides leaving one as a summary, which is shown on top of the recipe page as it's on the wireframe. So Keith mentioned we have a content block as well. We have probably a few different types of content blocks. We probably should add them as well to that content model, or should it be a separated process? How does this affect the API first people somehow? If we add some content block types as well?
Not really. However, we want to get as much presentation away from the content model as possible, and content blocks tend to have a lot of presentational charge. So I would say it's okay without knowing any specifics. I don't have any concerns, but the word blocks for a decoupled site kind of raises a red flag for me, or not a red flag, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, like it's not something that you are looking forward to supporting, I guess.
Right, because we will not have editorial control on layouts, right? For our part. So if having these as blocks has the intent of showing off that feature, we may opt out of that, depending on how coupled it is to the to the controls on the back end for how it should look on the front end, because we're not doing that.
Could we call it call to action, for example, and instead of being or thinking as them as blocks, could we just think of them as entities? Then you can use it however you want. I don't know if it has sense.
Would simplify things a little bit, yes.
Yeah, because I mean we are saying it, we are calling it blocks because we are trying to keep everything together with Drupal core, but if we just decouple it a little bit.
I mean, ultimately, what it means is that if we make it content blocks, we will need to clean up some fields in the API that we don't want to imply that there are any control on how things look in the page based on what the API delivers, right? So if we don't make them content blocks to start with, we are in a better position, but it's not like, again, it's not a deal breaker for us. If kind of helps you guys show some of the cool things that editors can do, it's fine.
Okay, so this is not something that affects the API first people that much, I guess.
No, we won't raise a red flag. We just express a preference.
Okay.
I think we need to showcase blocks anyway. So.
Probably in that case, I will leave them out from this issue, and we should deal with them in a separated issue. So we can keep this as lean as possible. Let's do so. So that's all about the content model. I will write a I will update the proposal so that we can get it approved. So just Roy, is this something that we should get approved by the product managers, or is this something that we can just kind of decide by ourselves? What do you feel?
I think it would be good to give a status update, as in, I mean, we have a couple of things moving, right? We have a content model that's 90% at least complete. There's a visual design that's well, settling or working towards settling on a direction, and there's actual decisions that we need to take on the experimental install profile. So I think it makes sense to request for a slot in the product management meeting and just give updates on both content model, visual design, and experimental install profile, just so that people know what's happening. I'm not sure if I don't think it needs formal sign-off. At least not necessarily right up until Dries, but Dries would like to keep informed, right? So,
Yeah.
I think we should book a slot in the product management meeting to give an update so that we can get feedback from there. But I don't foresee any big blocking. I mean, we're not doing anything crazy, that really crazy stuff. So,
Yet.
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, Roy, can you arrange the slot for the product management meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Later today, we will be doing this for the workflow initiative, where we're getting an overview of the workspaces part and see what the breakdown will be there, and get some feedback on priorities and where to start, etc. So I'll get some feedback. I'll see how that one goes, and then we can be prepared for out of the box review.
Okay. So that's pretty much about the content model, that what we have to discuss today. That's good. So I will update this, and hopefully we can get some feedback. So just about the design. So we were planning to ask for community feedback for that. So just referencing to the conversation we had, I think last week, about the order of things we should go in. So should we wait till this gets kind of, that we have a sign off from everyone that this is what we are going with before we ask for community feedback on the design?
That's a good question.
It might, because of community might want to see how this looks like on a design, so that we can get sign off on the content model. Because it might be easier to see what is missing or what is wrong when you can see something built on it.
Yeah.
Also, if we're following sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, there's earlier this week I had a bit of not a concern, but I wanted to pay attention to not only the sequence of where we've asked feedback for, but mostly that came from the idea of not presenting the visual design in isolation, not without the underlying content model, because otherwise it becomes very easy to do all kinds of suggestions. What about adding this? What about where's the slideshow? Yes, we didn't foresee a slideshow because content model, etc. So, there's the bit of providing context on where the design comes from, and then there's maybe as a question of the order of things. Let me check if we want to do this before or after the product meeting review. I'm not sure what's wise there.
Yeah.
But I will check that with Webchick.
Okay.
I think that maybe we don't need to have visual design finished. Maybe just with wireframes will be enough for reviewing the content model.
That's correct.
Just for not putting that, not showing at the same time the visual design and the wireframe. So it will be clear that we are reviewing only the content model itself. Otherwise, everything can be mixed, and I think it's not a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, that wireframes probably would be good enough for getting enough context about this.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think the next step should be that I don't think we should post the wireframes on another issue. So would it make sense to post the wireframes on this issue? Just as a reference point for the content model.
I think so. For me, it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
So let's
Did
do
you-
so. Let's post the wireframes on this issue.
Larry, did you want me to do some updates to them to reflect some of the recent points we're just making, though?
Yeah. So there was few
That's
changes.
probably
for the
wise.
wireframes.
Oh, I was just gonna have the same thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there are few changes for the wireframes from the feedback that was given earlier.
Yeah.
And those probably should be updated because of a lot of them had to do with the, like, how does the wireframes represent the content model that we have at the moment.
Right.
So it would very much make sense to make those updates, because otherwise you will get very similar feedback again as we already have.
Sounds good.
And then after that, I think after we have this approved, then we can proceed to the design and trying to get that community feedback for that. And I think it would be great if we could get the meeting with the product management before asking for community feedback.
Yeah.
So that it's not going to be so that community agrees but product management doesn't, and then we go asking again for feedback and everyone's confused. Okay. Keith, do we have any updates of the designs, or if not, that's fine as well?
The only thing that I was going to post through for conversation was just some sketching around how the recipe page was working, but it's nearly there. I've just had a little bit of trouble getting onto work this week. So the main thing is also we've just been doing some content. Some more has been done today. I'm not in the office today, so I haven't had a chance to see that, but Holly's been in doing some recipes and possibly an article or two.
Okay. So that's all that I have today. So now I would like to hear if there's anything for anyone else that you need for being unblocked on your work.
I do want to share something.
Okay.
So we've been exploring, and by we, I mean all 11 of us, Daniel, that comes for 10, and me. We've been exploring around how to import default content. And it seems that the solution that serves everyone's interest is to just do a plain migration. And because I understand that there is a hard requirement on having input being CSV files. And that would be fine. We would not require any contrib, but I don't know if the experimental profile can rely on experimental modules. I think it can, but I want to confirm that.
If
The
what can
experimental,
depend on experimental profile.
So if the out-of-the-box initiative can depend on a module that is in core marked as experimental.
Yeah, so the minimum requirement is that it has been marked with beta. That was what release managers proposed. So, and my grade is in beta, I think. Isn't it? I don't think it's alpha. Or is it alpha?
I don't recall.
I have to check. I think there is a doc for this.
Right, because like there are two main options that we explored. One is using the serialization module, and the other one is using Migrate. By using Migrate, we get the rollback feature for free, and we would just be shipping with migration. inside of as part of the installation profile. I guess that you would need to work that out, how to include that code. We would just make it a custom module for the distribution. But relying on, yeah, that simplifies things. So for the options that we kind of discarded were migrate default content and default content, and both of those are nice, but since we know what we are migrating into, and the domain that we are kind of acting on is limited to recipes and articles and tags and the surroundings. We can just provide the customization, just like we would do for Drupal client. So that was the idea, and that's what we are currently exploring. And also wanted to take the chance to make sure that you guys are aware of where we have this. Like there is a country module called recipes_magazine where we are doing all these explorations. So in there you can kind of follow along. Did I miss anything, Daniel?
I don't think so. One small bit is, I think we should just be aware that the main point of the default content initiative, default theme, or API first installation profile is to actually like show what Drupal can do. And I think like it shouldn't show how migrations work or how you import default content. So it doesn't matter that much how it is implemented at the end, or whether it's not ideal or something like that.
I agree that the technical implementation of the how the default content is being imported doesn't really matter, and it is not being listed on one of the goals of either of the initiatives to demonstrate migrate. But migrate just simply comes with a set of features.
Yeah, and I think migrate is like the best choice, I think.
Yeah, but it's good to realize that as well. So I just checked. So the migrate core has been marked as a beta. So we could rely on the migrate core according to the proposed plan by release managers.
Okay, so does anyone have any inconveniences of us proceeding forward with that proposal, just having a custom migration for the content types that we have agreed or we are agreeing upon?
No, I don't have anything. Does anyone else have any objections towards that?
Well, what color is it?
We don't see colors. We are backend developers. We only
no, they
see
use color module, so it can be any color.
Okay. No, please go ahead. It's great having you guys involved in this. Whatever makes stuff
so we can use the
forward is
migrate
good.
core. And the plan I discussed with some of the migrate people, and they said that their plan was to bring some of the. So one of them was CSV importer. They were planning to include it in core in some long-term plan. So adding it into the experimental installation profile first wouldn't be a problem, and it could be then moved from the installation profile to the core namespace later if they decide that it should be part of the core feature set outside of the experimental installation profile.
Cool, that's cool. We have something custom that Daniel provided at the moment, but we can switch it out at any moment, I assume.
Yeah, it's interesting that people are okay with copying the control code. I think that saves some work. That actually saves some work at the end, which is nice.
Yeah, so I was just discussing with the migrate people, and it's basically just one class that we need from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we already have parsers inherited from some Symfony dependencies, so kind of makes sense. So I guess that the really last thing, and I know that I already said that, is to do you have any restrictions or preferences on how the CSV files should look like, or we can just go with whatever is simpler for the migration?
I think you can go with whatever is simplest for the migration. So the reason we want to use CSV is that because we are most likely going to have non-technical people writing some default content for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we want them to be able to use Excel for creating the content, and then we want to be able to somehow, somewhat easily switch from application to a file that can be imported to Drupal.
Okay, perfect.
And CSV with CSV is that it's kind of a two-way, so it can be brought to Excel as well. Like if you use something like JSON, it's practically impossible to bring it to Excel, at least with the built-in tools in Excel.
It makes sense. Spreadsheet is like the Esperanto of product management, so everyone has spreadsheets. I think that's all for us, unless Daniel has something else.
I think he's being silent, so I don't think he has anything.
I was at a small meetup last Tuesday in Amsterdam, and I presented this initiative. And for the sample content, people were asking about, oh yeah, interesting sample content. Multilingual. Did we discuss that? Did we? Did we even think about that? Did we make a decision on it?
I think it was discussed at some point that we could.
Yeah, it was. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure Gabor mentioned it actually originally.
Probably.
Be great.
But
I don't even know what the actual questions are. What do we need to answer there?
Yeah.
So I think what we discussed is provide multiple in core. It would be something that the community. I think so. I think that's what was discussed. Gabor, do you remember?
So I spaced out a bit. So what do I remember? What was the question that we discussed before?
I think we discussed about the fact that people should be able to provide translation for the default content, but it would be happening outside of Drupal core so that it would be downloaded from somewhere. Do you remember anything about that? Anything of that conversation?
Yeah, we can definitely build whatever extraction mechanism for CSV files. We have a lot of custom extraction mechanisms for info YAML and default config and plugin YAMLs that are not config and like all kinds of other things. So it's not really any different to have a special or routing files that are nothing like any of the other things. So it's nothing special to have an extracting mechanism for CSV files. We just need to have a pattern to the files that we can somehow identify which of the rows/columns are translatable, and then we can extract that and we can download that live with all the rest of the stuff and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so that would need some infrastructure then in place.
So that I think it's easy to build for the extraction. So we just need to make sure that we structure the CSV files in some predictable way. And it should be easy to extend the POTX module to extract them. And from there, it would be automatically available and localized at Drupal.org. And it would be automatically downloaded with your Drupal core translations. So then the only other step that needs to happen is to actually use the translation that was downloaded when the content is created. So it's somewhere in the migration process that you just discussed. There would need to be something to apply a transformation of the text through the Drupal's translation system. But Migrate supports processing plugins, so should be possible.
Yeah, but that sounds like that's not in the scope of MVP. Is that fine?
I think it's fine. I also think it's not very complicated, but it's fine if it's not MVP. After all, it's experimental, so we don't need to build everything out of the gate.
Right. It's not blocking, and it can be added. Right. It's not something that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically,
That's great.
it could be part of it, but it shouldn't be blocking the release if we don't have that.
Yeah, so the only thing to keep in mind for the data structure is to design it in a way that is predictable for a parser to tell what parts are translatable. And as long as it's designed like that, there's no core change required for parsing it because the parser is not in core. And the only core change would be required when the actual content entities are created to apply the transformation. That's not MVP. So I would encourage the data structure to be designed in a way that is predictable. Is the only thing.
Okay.
Cool.
Makes sense. Does anyone else have something that needs to be solved or unblocked?
No, well, I just have I'm not blocked, but I just want to comment that I'm going to pick the issue for the redesign the installed profile because Gabor said that Kevin is not going to work on that, so I'll take this one just to see what else we need to do here.
Okay, that's great because it's one of the issues around the initiative that needs to be solved before.
It's in front of our path, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the first things we have to crack.
Okay.
That's
That
great
was
news,
all.
Christina. Thanks.
Yeah.
Welcome. So, anything else for me?
Anything else from anyone else? If we don't have any other updates, then I guess we are done from this week, and we have a call during the US hours next week.
Perfect.
Okay.
See you.
Thanks all.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.